Hey guys, welcome back to Mark's Garden Life. Today I've got Carrie Engle here with me, and we are at Valley View Farms, which is a renowned nursery just north of Baltimore, Maryland. They've got one of the largest houseplant selections that I know of. This part is one part of a three-part series. Carrie and I decided that we were going to cut our conversation up into a few episodes. That way it stays a little bit more organized. Yep. This episode we're going to talk about different environments, different plants like to live in different environments in the house, right? Like
exactly.
You can put them in some places they'll be happy, but in other places they won't.
And I think knowing that, you also have to know that things change. So in Baltimore,
Yes.
You put these plants outside in a real shady area, they're loving life because they're getting tremendous amounts of humidity, just like they would in Florida or wherever their native area is. But bringing them inside, all of a sudden they're under a little bit of stress. So we try to replicate the conditions that they would have to be at their healthiest.
Okay, and yeah, you're right. And in the Chesapeake area where we are, we have very, very humid summers.
Yep.
And a lot of houseplants are going to love that.
Absolutely.
But in the wintertime, a lot of our houses get much drier. So there's some things you can do or look for
right.
when you're taking that into consideration. So what are these? What kind of light are we talking about here?
Most of this I would say is low light, and you gave a real good description to me not long ago. Tell us that again.
Well, what I heard was definition of low light was, as far as houseplants go, is somewhere in a house that's bright enough that you can read a book without having a lamp on for additional light.
So a lot of what we do even in our greenhouse, our west wall will usually have succulents and things that love the light, and the other houseplants and stuff that like low light would tend to move over to an area that's more shady. So we try to do the same thing at home so that the plants don't get in trouble and get too much of a transplant shock when they get back to your house.
Sure.
So yeah, some of these plants are low light. This one is probably the one people know the most. This is Spathiphyllum or peace lily, and you can see this little guy is starting to open up, and it's going to open up like like calla lilies almost do.
Yeah, like a cup with a stem in the center.
Exactly, and this will get several on there. And usually when we get them up from Florida, they might treat them a week or two before we get them. That'll kind of initiate this growth on here, so we're comfortable with that.
Okay, and does this like a lot of water or?
This tends to, when you look at a plant that has this many leaves on it, and we pulled out the roots on this last time, and you can see that there really are a lot of them on there. Yeah, and the best things, take your finger, stick it in there, and when it's dry, give it a shot of water.
Okay.
And we talked about it before. If you've got this in a pot with no drainage, just set it in the pot and take it out to water, and then put it back in. Okay. Or if you have it in one of the ceramic pots that has like one little hole in the side or the bottom, just make sure you get rid of that excess water.
Sure. Don't want it sitting in a puddle.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, what about these little guys?
These are Calatheas, and there's a lot of different varieties of these, and they've been really, really hot lately. They'll call them peacock plants. This one's a medallion, one of the ones that gets the broader leaf on it. There are some that get taller. There's one called, I think it's called Rufa Barbara, that gets pretty tall, has a velvety purple underleaf and then a darker overleaf.
Like up to here?
Yeah, they'll do pretty good. And then this is I guess we call this the peacock plant as much as anything, the lancifolia. It has the longer leaf, the peacock colors. And here's what I love about this plant. So I put one like this outside this year and wasn't paying attention, and it got full hot sun and it was crispy.
Okay.
And I cut it back, put it in the shade, it came back beautifully.
Okay.
So I kind of call this a second chance plant.
Okay, just don't give up.
Right.
All right.
And that's true with a lot of plants. Some of them, you kind of learn which ones you can and can't, but you can cut them back. Sometimes they come back really slowly. Other times they come right back. Boston fern, perfect example. They get like so huge they're hard to handle. Cut them back.
Just give them a buzz cut.
Exactly.
And they'll come right back on you.
We do that with petunias and all sorts of stuff outside. It's the same kind of thing.
That's a great tip. Great. What about this one here?
That's Dieffenbachia. That's the dumb cane. This will get a little bit taller. I love the big leaves on this. And it's, again, one that can handle lower light. Now, you are going to get higher color in higher light, but it really does fine in low light. It does
the different variegation, you'll get brighter, like the white spots will get, okay. So this is the one that we were talking about earlier in the other episode. It's just a larger plant.
Exactly. And a lot of times in the larger plants, in this one in particular, they put like 3 plants in there. So you kind of have to decide where you want that. I have a Norfolk Island pine at home that's over 8 feet tall.
Wow.
And it's got 3 plants in there. And little by little, I'm going to try to get rid of those other 2 plants. But it's really hard to grow a symmetrical plant when you have 3 of them going on like that.
Right. When they start getting real big.
Exactly.
Okay. This is sort of similar to me to this one in terms of the way it looks.
It is. Now this is Aglaonenemo. This will definitely take lower light. This is some of the newer varieties, some new breeding that's come through that'll have pink stems, sometimes red stems or white stems. And if you don't mind, reach that one right behind you, because that's sort of the older version that a lot of us are used to.
These are beautiful.
They are, and they just really do beautifully in low light. They also don't take a lot of water, so you really can keep them relatively carefree indoors.
Okay.
Not a lot of insects that I've noticed on them, so pretty happy with them.
Very nice. Very
So that's
pretty.
Aglaonenemo or Chinese evergreen.
Okay. Which they're really, really pretty. I'm just gonna keep putting these down.
Hey,
I'm
I
gonna
like
put
it.
new ones up.
I like it when he does all the work.
And these are all, everything we're talking about, again, it's all for pretty low light.
For pretty low light. And they can't acclimate into higher light. And we talk about the greenhouse. They're all doing fine in here, but they're not going to do well in full sun or direct sun by any means.
Just take them a little bit at a time.
Exactly.
Don't just take it from inside and throw it out in the blazing hot sun.
You're exactly right.
And
try to kill it like I did my Calathea.
All right. How about, well, we recognize this one from what we talked about before.
Yeah, that's the ZZ palm, so that, or ZZ plant, so that'll do really well in any kind of light, honestly. That's one of those plants that you take home and you have high light, it'll do fine, you have low light, it'll do fine.
Okay.
Just keep an eye on it so it doesn't get too dry, but again, it has those big nut type, like, things on the roots.
These big, like little tennis balls down here.
Yeah, they're like swollen stems down low, but they really keep the plant easy and nice to go.
Okay.
And there's a lot of varieties out there now. There was one called Raven that's a real dark green, and there are some that are shorter. So just keep an eye on the tags for those.
Okay.
What different ones there might be.
ZZ plant, I like that one. I'm gonna have to get one of those.
That's one I can spell.
That's one I can spell.
That's right. So this is one of my favorites. This is one of the palms. This is Rhapis. That's R-H-A. No, I'm going to spell that wrong.
Almost got your eyes there.
Or lady palm.
Okay.
Very, very slow grower. Stays dark green like that. Doesn't need a lot of water or care. And it's one of those plants. Customers come to you like in here, and they tell me they've got their plant right next to a window. I'm like, in front of the window or next to the window? Because next to the window is probably the darkest spot they can put it in. So this plant is going to do okay there or in a corner, and it's going to give you some height eventually. It's a slow grower, but it will get up there.
Okay. Now I see we got one over here. What I'm going to try to do, I'm going to put this one down, make some way.
Okay.
We got one down here to my left that, to me, looks very similar. Maybe we could talk about the difference.
Now I like this. This is one of my default plants. So when people come in here and they're decorating their home, they like palms, but a lot of palms are real fanny, really spread out. The Chinese fan palms, the Majesty, some of those.
Okay.
This one's going to stay basically in that column shape, and it's going to grow pretty tall. It'll get up to, 6-7 feet easily.
Oh, wow.
It's also, compared to most palms, if you've grown them before, they kind of have a tendency towards spider mites.
Okay.
These don't. I mean, I'm not saying they'll never get them, but they really are resistant to a lot of those problems.
Wow.
And again, it's a plant that you can sort of set behind the couch and let it grow behind you and not worry about light all too much, water it when it's dry to the touch, like most of your other plants.
And it won't take over half your room either.
Right, it's going to stay that column shape.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really nice. You see some people, if you want a plant that's going to get really big and create a lot of impact, you get to worry about it having a 6-7 foot spread. It's like, well, I can't do that, but this is good. This is a good way to fix that.
Right, and you don't have to do too much pruning. I know I brought in a large Majesty palm this year. I don't know why, but but I did because it looked good and I couldn't let it go. But it really just took up too much of the room. So little by little, I cut the fronds off and made it a more compact plant. Next summer, I'll put it back out and let it do its thing again.
Okay. Well, I'll get these giant ones out of the way here.
Alrighty. So it's nice about a lot of these. So we started talking about humidity. Most of the plants we're talking about here do love that. So if you can spray them, which isn't that effective, get a humidifier, which is very effective, group them together always helps, or putting saucers under these with pebbles that'll kind of create some humidity for the whole thing.
Oh, the pebbles, like the water will evaporate off of the clay pebbles.
Right.
And sort of create a little blanket of humidity around the plant itself.
Yeah, and you don't want this plant like right up against where the water is. So if you have a saucer and you put pebbles in like an inch or so, just give it some separation. And make that saucer a good bit wider than the plant too.
So that's not sitting in a puddle. Because the roots go all the way down to the bottom of this pot.
Exactly.
So if you got it in a dish with water in it, it helps to have something to lift it up a little bit out of the water.
Well, and I even went and got, the mats you put in your dog crates.
Yeah.
I got one of those and I use that for my plants. So I do the same thing. I just put pebbles on that and keep some moisture in that.
Okay.
And that way I can put a lot of my plants in one area, and that humidity, they all kind of help each other.
Wow, that's a good idea.
Hey, You
All
have
right.
these things around, you go, oh, I know how I can use that.
Yeah, that's pretty creative. All right, how about this one?
All right, that's one of my favorites. We don't get these that often. They're very slow growers. This one's called aspidistra, or cast iron plant, and it's a plant that is exactly that. I mean, you could probably grow this in a closet. You probably don't even need that light you were talking about.
Wow.
So I think of all the plants that I've grown and had in my house, this has been one of the best for the really, really low light. And
Okay.
just it's easy care.
You could almost put it in a closet.
You almost put it in a closet.
I
Yeah.
like that. That's really neat. I like the way the stems come down and they're not blocked up by anything.
Right.
Reminds me of like bamboo almost. How bamboo like comes up.
Yeah, very similar. And
It's
I
like
like, yeah.
Just the way it looks.
And when you start mixing these together, I mean, you can just see that you get all these different textures and colors.
Yeah, I mean they
really have
complement
fun
each other
with it.
so well.
Yep.
Okay, and then we got the good old. We haven't touched on this one yet. This is the snake plant from earlier, but just a bigger one. We can see it getting taller now.
Yep, and this is the one a lot of people have tried and they've done well with. They gain some confidence and start growing some other things.
Okay.
A lot of varieties of these, so not just this. There are some that like black coral that are dark all the way through, and then there's some bird's nests that stay relatively short. It's just one of those plants that people really like. They're easy to grow and they're confident with them.
Okay, these two right here would be pretty easy to start with. Great,
Oh, yeah.
great ones to
Absolutely.
get your feet wet. Okay, all right. Well, those are some good shade plants. Maybe we can move on next to and talk about in a little while
Okay.
some sunny plants.
Sounds
or
good.
Stuff that has a little more sunny situation.
No, yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see you in that part.